from the Marginlands, the fortnightly podcast that I co-host with Arti Kumar Rao. I'm Prem Panika.
Hi, this is Aarti, and welcome to episode 9. Uh, and we are going to jump into some really interesting things that have been going on in the world, and also introduce our guest for this episode. Alrighty, you can see this, Prem?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So our oceans are warming, so what? And in this episode, soon, we will welcome Dr. Roxy Mathew Koll, and we will discuss the implications of a warming ocean with him, among other things. It's a wide-ranging conversation, and we are sure you will get a lot out of it. We had so many more questions at the end. We could have gone on for hours. But, of course, keeping everyone's time in mind, we stopped it at a certain point. But that's coming up a little later. But first, so what has this fortnight really looked like? It has been an interesting fortnight in terms of news, right, Prem?
Yes,
Europe
absolutely.
is burning. Um, all kinds of news in terms of heat waves that everywhere, France, Spain, Barcelona, Italy. Italy is at 46 degrees,
Yeah.
ridiculous amount like that. Spain as well. Um, have you been watching Wimbledon, Prem?
Not yet. As you know, I just got back from,
Right,
yeah.
right, right. No, Wimbledon, all the players are sitting with ice packs around their necks, and there have been people fainting left, right, and center. It's bad there. This summer seems to have been probably the worst in a while. And they don't have ACs, I guess, in their houses in those buildings in France and Italy and so on. So they're really struggling.
And if I remember correctly, on the day we are recording, in a little while, India is playing a test match against England, which is 5 days in the heat.
But I think Indians will be okay. I'm not sure, but maybe we'll be okay. But I don't think I think it's unusual for Europe. But I was just looking at the temperatures. I mean, 46 is hot by any stretch of imagination, plus
Right.
humidity. So, but I think in London it's about 26 or 28 or
Oh,
something like
that's
that,
okay. Mm.
which isn't too crazy for us. However, with humidity,
Hmm.
but I don't know what that's going to play. But yes, I hope everybody stays safe out there on the field and off. At home, we have our usual suspects, right?
Yes. Yeah. Rains, landslides, road blockages. Oh, and this headline does not also include road cave-ins, highways that have been converted into rivers because whoever built the highway forgot that drainage is necessary. Yeah, the usual
And
suspects,
I
like you
think there was
said,
an old bridge, iron bridge in Pune that was washed away,
washed
and
away.
terrible stuff. A lot of people losing their lives. And here, this one particularly caught my eye. One sentence here in this. These are from two different newspapers. One is from Z News and the other is from the New Indian Express. But they
Mhm.
both had this one line about the dam, the Pangdo Dam,
Yeah.
which released excess water because of the rainfall. And there was therefore huge flooding downstream because of it. And somehow, Prem, remind me if isn't it that the whole argument for building dams is flood control?
Exactly. So the irony is that dams are causing floods, and this speaks to something that you've been talking about a long time, right? There is this dichotomy between if you oppose dams, you're anti-development, and people tend to lose sight of the fact that some of us, when we speak about dams, all we're asking is what is the purpose of this dam, and does it actually serve the purpose? Has any thought gone into it? In this
Exactly.
case, yeah,
Yeah.
clearly not.
It's all about appropriate technology, right?
Yeah,
Not technology for technology's sake. And
yeah.
really, it's not got anything to do with anti-development. Development is wanted by all, but what development, for whom, and at what cost, right? We need to be intellectually honest about such things, and we don't seem to be. We seem to be driven by other motivations, and And then this kind of stuff happens time and time. I mean, how many times Uttarakhand and
Yes.
Himachal? I mean, how sad that the people, local people, suffer so much every year because of the wanton hubris of a few.
Yeah. And if you notice now, even the conversation around, so you have these things, and if it becomes headlines, then the state promptly says, oh, okay, we are announcing compensation. And much later, we get a headline which says, and it's not even a headline, it's somewhere tucked in the middle pages in a remote corner, that the people are still waiting for the compensation.
Yeah,
How are they expected to survive in the meantime? Forget about living, just
yeah,
survival in the meantime.
yeah.
Nobody knows, nobody cares.
Yeah, I remember being in Assam when one embankment breached and the water and the Brahmaputra rushed through and washed away a whole village. 21 houses were washed away. A lot of people lost their lives. Little kids who were in school were saved only because the headmaster rushed them to a higher ground when he heard the crack, and he was so prescient, he knew something was going on, and he rushed them, and within seconds the water came through and just took, so many lost their parents and so on. There too, the compensation was going to be minimal, first of all, and second,
Hmm.
even if it came, it would come a year or two later in full.
Yeah.
So terrible situations for the people on ground, and the powers that be in the ivory towers and in the whitewashed corridors of Delhi and other places keep making these crazy, plans to.
Yeah. And talking of crazy plans, this is slightly off the headline here, but did you notice the Delhi government has come up with a plan to cloud seed in order?
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
It's
I should have
brilliant,
put that
right?
in.
They're doing it exactly when the monsoon is arriving in Delhi.
Yeah, I know there's a heat wave in Delhi and all of that. Yes, but and how much was it? I think it was 3.21 crore or something
Yeah,
for cloud seeding.
yeah,
I mean, if you just did things right, it's stunning how much money we're willing to throw at these technological solutions. And this is also something that will come up when we talk with Roxy. And
yeah,
it's just false solutions, literally, like he calls it.
yeah,
This is another false solution. I mean,
right.
I saw that and I balked. I was like, and it was almost like a triumph. And then there was also something about not seeding above Lutyens Delhi and only seeding on
Hmm.
the outskirts or some
Yeah,
rubbish. Anyway, really sad. I think people have it all backwards, and I'm if I have to get on my soapbox, I just say that we're so disconnected from how nature behaves and what we're doing to it.
yes.
Anyway, um, then there was this again in the Hindu. Hindu has been doing a good job of
Good
covering a lot
job.
of these
Yes.
things this summer, actually. So Asia is warming at twice the global average, and this was a report from the World Meteorological Organization. And here, the thing that's very stunning is that into 2024, most of the ocean areas of Asia were affected by marine heat waves of
Hmm.
strong, severe, or extreme intensity, and to the largest extent since records began in 1993. And marine heat waves being different from terrestrial heat waves, and we will, I
Dig
think,
deeper into that.
dig deeper
Yes.
into that. And Dr. Cole explains it extremely well. But just look at it, right? Everywhere, extreme rainfall, extreme temperatures, cyclones, typhoons. It's mad. I mean, it's really crazy. You people roll their eyes when you say climate change. Unfortunately, it's very real for people on ground. The fishermen, the people especially who don't have the privilege to live in either AC rooms or even
Yeah.
pakka houses.
Every time I see these kind of headlines, you know what occurs to me, and I don't want this to be a political podcast, it isn't, but it is that the man who currently leads the country once said that it is not that the heat is increasing, it's just that our tolerance to heat is going down. And I mean, my job dropped then, and I don't think I've hitched it back in place ever since. How do you do this? I mean, how disconnected could you possibly be from what's actually happening? But yes, Asia warming, Europe boiling, parts of India drowning.
Yeah, and it's a very real. I think that it says over here. I think the last line on this little snapshot that I have for you here is the northern Indian Ocean and in the ocean area adjacent to Japan and the Yellow Sea and the East China Sea were especially affected, and these are highly productive places
Yes.
in terms of fisheries.
Yeah.
And then what does that then mean? I think that might be the perfect segue to introduce Dr. Roxy Mathew Koll,
You
who
want to
is a
tell the
climate scientist at the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology. He did his PhD in ocean and atmospheric dynamics from Hokkaido University, Japan. Beautiful place. Dr. Koll has made breakthroughs contributing to the research, monitoring, and modeling of climate and extreme weather events over the Indo-Pacific region. His work has advanced the scientific understanding of monsoon, floods, and droughts, terrestrial and marine heat waves, and cyclones, facilitating the food, water, sorry, um, facilitating the food, water, and economic security of the region. Kohl is the lead author of the IPCC report. So all of the reports that come in the news about how many degrees we're warming, et cetera, he's the lead author for many of those reports and the former chair of the Indian Ocean Region Panel. He actively collaborates with citizen science networks, local governments, and media to bring science to society, and received the National Science Award, which is the highest recognition in the field of science, technology, and innovation in India, from the President of India in 2024. So if you had to ask anybody these questions, Dr. Roxy Mathew Koll would be the best person.
Absolutely. And for the benefit of those who are watching, this is again one of those places where we have to give an advisory to those who are listening to the podcast that some of these visuals you probably want to check out the YouTube channel. But for those who are watching, that image is an Arti Kumar Rao photograph shot, if I remember correctly, in 2019 from a boat off the coast of Kerala, somewhere off the Valiyathura region of Trivandrum district.
That's right.
Right.
Yep. And we were
And
both in the boat and we were bouncing along. No. Did we have life jackets? I don't think we
yeah,
did.
you had life jackets, if you remember, and you were sort of
Maybe.
straight jacketed into it. It's not a life jacket so much as a straight jacket, which I refuse to wear, and you,
Yeah, well, you know how to swim. I do not. So there was
right.
that.
So,
Right. And we bumped along, but I think what we saw from that point of view couldn't be beat.
absolutely.
You can't get that sense of how much the Kerala coast has eroded from
Yeah.
standing on the coast itself.
Yeah.
And off the coast, and you can see how the water, especially this was just post monsoon. This was October, right?
October. Yeah.
Just after monsoon, and the seas were still quite rough, and they were just banging and crashing against the houses. So it was quite a crazy sight.
Yes.
Anyway,
And so,
yeah, let's welcome Dr. Mathew Koll. And I'll stop sharing here, and we will be back with Dr. Koll in just a second.
Yeah.
so Dr. Cole, thank you so much for taking the time. We wanted to start you off with something that you said at COP27 when you called 1.5 degree Celsius a death sentence for Indian Ocean ecosystems.
Yeah.
In fact, to quote you, you actually said 1.5 degrees Celsius is not a target, it's a boundary. So, with COP28 failing to deliver, what would you say are the specific accountability mechanisms that climate negotiation should impose on high emitting nations?
Well, first of all, thanks for bringing me to this discussion. I have enjoyed our these discussions earlier with on biodiversity and related aspects. So coming to COP, I think right now we have reached up to COP 30, right? And which means that for 30 years consecutively, all these nations have been coming together and discussing on what kind of action, whether it's mitigation and adaptation, what kind of action we can take, particularly from the perspective of high emitting nations, considering the cumulative emissions during the last uh, several decades. Yeah. And from what I see, when I look at the commitments that different countries have made, including the high emitting nations, including India, whether it's US, Europe, all nations, and the follow up, and also the trajectory in which the carbon emissions are going and the trajectory in which the climate is going, I see that we are far away from reaching anywhere close to, uh, kind of pulling that curve down. Not just 1.5, I would say even 2 degrees Celsius is kind of hard set right now, because none of the countries have followed up with their commitments. Even their commitments were not enough or sufficient to keep the temperatures down below 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius. Right now, we are in fact going through that 1.5 degrees Celsius of that decade. We will got to quantify and know only by end of the decade or end of 2 decades, but we see the signs are already there. And definitely a lot of ecosystems, both over the land and over the ocean. This could be a death call because many of them go through have particular thresholds. For example, coral systems are the first ones to experience these impacts because ocean takes in a lot of that additional heat from global warming. In fact, 93% of the heat from global warming is taken up by oceans. And this do not get reflected on the surface. The global surface temperature warming that we are talking about, 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2 degrees Celsius, does not account for the ocean, the heat that the oceans absorb. So we see those impacts, and it's not like on the coral systems, it's just 1 degree Celsius or 1.5 degrees Celsius of impact. It's like sporadic heat waves, what we call marine heat waves. There's a lot to talk about marine heat waves. I'm not explaining right now, but this can kill corals. Yeah. So we are far away from the resolution that we took. We are far away from keeping those temperatures down.
You did mention that there is a lot to talk about when it comes to marine heat waves, and we'll get to that in just a bit. But Arti, you had a question on the
I have a follow-up question on what you, just taking on from what you said right now, Roxy. And I'm calling you Roxy and not Dr. Koll. But the question is, you talked about COP, Conference of Parties, and I was in COP 21 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I came away feeling so disgusted.
Yeah.
I swore I'll never go to another COP. I'm not going to waste my carbon footprint on going to COPs. But it's really what I felt then, and I'm asking you this question now, is there an accountability in nations for nations to even curb or endeavor to keep it down, whether it's 1.52, 2.53, whatever? Is there any accountability at all built into the system? Or is it just, you proclaim it yourself and then we all hope that you are righteous enough to stick to those proclamations?
I will start from India itself because I know that better compared to other countries, and we how do we take accountability? We quantify it, and also we see how we can contribute to reducing those emissions, right? And India had set as NDCs, nationally determined contributions, on how much we would emit and how would we attain those targets and all. And India, what I see is there's a lot of talk, but less of a walk on the talk. it had committed to reducing the emissions, and it gave a few lines on, forestation and renewable energy resources. But there is no clear-cut framework to attain those NDCs, yeah, or limiting those emissions. And we see different countries are approaching that in myriad ways, different ways. US is going in totally another direction. We
Yes.
see some examples from some of the European countries. If we take the rate of increase in emissions, some of the European countries have kind of flattened or reduced some of the emissions. So, but when we consider the aggregate, we still see it going up.
Mm. So then the other the question is, well, carbon dioxide is one of the gases that contributes to this kind of increase, right? And there seem to
Yeah.
be a lot of, as you have called it, false solutions in terms of carbon capture.
Yeah.
And carbon
Well,
capture.
you captured all my quotes, I think.
Oh yeah.
Throwing back at
We've,
me.
we've been
Yeah.
assiduously watching videos of Dr. Roxy Koll. But
Okay.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
We both live in Bangalore, and
Yeah.
Bangalore loves tech.
Yeah.
Tech can solve all of our problems.
Yeah.
I'd like to throw the ball in your court. Say, why do you call them? And I'm actually secretively completely with
Yeah.
you on this. But why do you call, let for the benefit of our viewers, why do you call
Yeah.
them false solutions, and where do you see this carbon capture tech at?
Yeah, so I see, even in terms of mitigate, there is a lot of emphasis on climate mitigation. Yeah, and a lot of money is thrown in also. Many of that is focusing on geoengineering. Probably they're seeing some profit in it, and especially in terms of carbon capture, we don't see that. I would say that okay, in parallel with all other solutions, this also has to happen, but as a key solution, it will never work in the several decades ahead because even so, there are several institutions or organizations now doing carbon capture on an experimental basis. If you put them all together, the carbon they can capture uh, in a year is almost equivalent to or less than the carbon that we emit in a minute, in a single minute.
Wow.
Yeah,
Serious?
yeah, yeah. So, and so along with that, it is more expensive and you spend more energy in doing that carbon capture. Yeah. So scaling up this carbon capturing technology, we don't see how viable it is in the near future. That is a key factor. Uh, it's because carbon dioxide it's well mixed in the atmosphere and it's spread all over the globe. So it is easier to actually capture, no, work it out at the source itself
Yes.
rather than once it is well mixed with the atmosphere. Atmosphere is, huge, 10, 11 to 18 kilometers depth, the troposphere itself and spread around the globe. And you are trying to capture the carbon dioxide, spread across and well mixed with the atmosphere. It's a very difficult mammoth task. Uh, I don't see that as a major solution for the problems that we are facing or are going to face in the next coming decades.
Uh, Roxy, listening to your videos, one of the things, and particularly when you talk about false solutions, one of the things that I think is not explicitly stated, but it's a sense I got is that you're warning that these blue economy initiatives end up running the risk of diverting resources from real adaptation in India or worldwide. Is that true, or am I
Ah,
reading something into it?
this is what I wanted to connect. So there is a lot of focus on mitigation. Yeah, and the mitigation part is a bit straightforward. You need renewable energy resources, public transport, reduce emissions, and all. But when it comes to adaptation, we really need to focus on the local changes because,
Mhm.
for example, if you take cities like Bangalore, the adaptation that you require will be totally different from Chennai or Delhi or Pune, where I'm living in. Yeah, even coastal cities, you take Mumbai and Kochi or Kolkata and Chennai will have total different adaptation requirements based on the climate change they are facing, the location they are in, the weather and the geography, everything. Yeah, which is even to, I mean, first we need to assess it, then we need to have tailor-made adaptation methods, which will save the lives, livelihoods, and the ecosystem, and the jobs and everything over there, which is a difficult task. And for this, we need, financing at multiple levels, at different levels of government, and we need different groups to work together. So I don't see that kind of work happening in a well systematic, organized way. And so it doesn't cater to actually, the climate action the way I see it, especially for regions like India, because we are already facing the brunts of climate change. And we know that, the time has already passed. And uh, we are already facing the impacts of that 1 degree Celsius in heat waves,
Mhm.
cyclones, extreme rains, and all these extreme patterns. And that's with 1 degree Celsius. And this is going up to 1.5 and 2 degrees Celsius. And we would see an exponential intensification of all these impacts. And we cannot wait for, this mitigation to happen, reduce emissions, and all, because we are already losing lives here. Yeah. And one thing about carbon dioxide is, even if we stop all emissions today, the lifespan of carbon dioxide is long. It
Yes.
will stay in that system for hundreds to thousands of years. So
Right.
if we are at 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius, that's going to stay like that for a long time, even if we cut all the emissions right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep finish. That's
Yeah.
fine.
So which means we need to, focus on adaptation immediately because we are already facing the brunt of it. Yeah.
I just wanted to this point that you made about carbon dioxide staying in the atmosphere for 100,
Yeah.
100 years, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, what kind of responsibility does that put on historical emitters? Because
Yeah.
oftentimes, even just yesterday, I
Mm.
heard someone from India talk
Mm.
about India's emissions, which of course
Mm.
are growing and they're not
Yeah.
coming down and so on.
Yeah.
But given the history, if you were to take a 100-year
Mm.
history, India is
Mm.
minuscule compared
Mm.
to your UK and
Yeah.
US and
Yeah.
Germany and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where does that put these historical emitters? I know that
Mm.
pinning responsibility and asking them to fund it, etc., is a ship that has sailed.
Yeah.
But how do you see this, and how can our listeners view this when somebody throws it in their face that India is a huge carbon emitter? Is that a valid accusation, or is the pushback valid, or are they equally valid?
Yeah, I think in a political scenario, we try to throw the mud at each other. I would say we all should take responsibility. Historical emitters, definitely, especially for the reason that I just mentioned, because uh, the carbon dioxide, whatever we have emitted during the last 150 years, a large share of it is still in the atmosphere, which
Mm.
is keeping us at that global warming state, and we won't be able to escape it for hundreds to thousands of years. Uh, and I would also say, along with the historical emitters, right now we have come to that understanding that this is a grave issue. Carbon dioxide emissions can increase temperatures, and we have better technology. So countries like India has an opportunity to invest more in uh, energy efficient technology and the science and research which can, keep our emissions also less, because in the next few decades we will be that historical emitter. Yeah, with that 1.4 population, and which is going to maybe, I don't know, 2 billion population, and we are all racing towards that same luxurious lifestyle that US has been having. Yeah, and and we don't see our public transport improving. So everyone is using their own cars. Uh, so we 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 will also, we are already joined the bandwagon, but we will have that huge responsibility that we are putting on the other historical emitters pretty soon, or maybe we already have. That's why you already had that discussion with one of your colleagues. So I would say we all should take that responsibility. It's high time. Yeah. So even if historical emitters and all stop and India still keep emitting, still that's banned. Yeah. Uh, I would say we can be we can be the leader of South Asia in terms of investing in renewable energy resources, and instead of maybe importing Tesla and all, we should try to have you know make or produce energy efficient products and devices here in India itself. I think that's the way forward. Yeah.
Prem, I had one question more before we move on to other things. So just one thing. So when we're talking about zero emissions and stuff, you are probably, speaking at a level where you're interacting often with policymakers. And so, what are you hearing? And this is something that we talked about in our previous episode. And I wanted to, ask you this question of something that Pema Khandu, who is the chief minister of Arunachal Pradesh, has said that this decade is going to be the decade of hydropower in Arunachal. And from where I sit, or the things that I see, I don't view hydropower as benign. I don't view hydropower as zero emissions. And I don't view hydropower as an ecologically clean energy. Where do you come from in this?
Actually, I do not have a clear quantified understanding of to separate hydropower, but I understand the ecological impacts that comes with hydropower in many places. Not only ecological, but also humans and the entire ecosystem there. Um, I would say there is still huge scope for other kind of renewable energy resources, which we haven't actually kind of extracted yet over India. Uh, I see that there is huge interest also in these energy resources, solar, wind, and other kind of energy resources. And I feel we have uh, oh, uh, I feel by focusing on that and uh, you know providing incentives for that could be a way forward. Well, I don't have a perfect answer for your question.
No, I think you make a great point,
Yeah.
because as we pointed out last episode, that we have 36 or 38 percent installed capacity, whereas our generating is happening only at about 14% of these
Uh,
new renewables of wind and solar
uh,
and so on. So I think you make a good point, and let's move on. I mean, that could.
Yeah, but I want, but you reminded me of one thing. Our demand for energy is growing so fast for India that whatever, even if we are whatever capacity we have built for renewable energy resources, that is nowhere near, shaving off even a percentage of the growth in the demand. Yeah. Because we saw that in the last 2 years, India was actually importing more coal. despite all this increase in capacity of renewable energy resources and also opening up more coal mines, still we imported coal because especially I remember reading in 2023 and maybe 2024 also in October, there was huge demand for electricity and energy. So we imported coal from outside India.
Wow. So coal isn't going anywhere yet.
I don't see that happening. Yeah.
Prem, over to you.
Yeah, Roxy, listening to you, I was thinking of Alice in Wonderland and that analogy, actually, Alice Through the Looking Glass, that analogy of having to run as fast as you possibly can just to stay in the same place, which seems to be where we are. Unfortunately, you are running as fast as possible to not just stay in the same place, you're slipping, even as you are going at top pace. Earlier in this conversation, you mentioned marine heat waves. And you've called marine heat waves underwater wildfires, which, when I heard it, I mean that's a very scary, very telling analogy. Uh, for the benefit of non-scientists, Roxy, what makes this so urgent, and specifically for the Indian Ocean? You also mentioned that the increase in global temperatures. It is not on the surface of the ocean that there is much more to it, right? That
Right.
it happens at depth.
Yeah.
So why is this so urgent, and how is this different from, say, the regular heat waves that we feel?
Right. Yeah. So it's only a decade since we started hearing about marine heat waves, and for India, only a few years. Actually, our research was one of the pioneering study on marine heat waves in the closer tropical Indian Ocean, and what we found was that these kind of heat waves. So we are having heat waves in the ocean just like over the land, but the characteristics are slightly different. They are many times they last longer,
Mhm.
and they could be about 2-3 degrees Celsius or sometimes 4 degrees Celsius warmer than the normal conditions, and can stay like that for several days. So this has multifaceted impacts. One is definitely directly on the coral reefs and the marine ecosystem itself. So, for example, I would say whenever we talk about anomalies, it is important to know about the mean temperatures also. So, for example, in the Bay of Bengal or in the Arabian Sea, the temperatures are between 26 to 29 degrees Celsius, say.
Mhm.
Uh, these during marine heat waves, if the temperature anomaly is like 3 or 4 degrees Celsius, this 26 will become up to 29 or 30 degrees Celsius, and something around 29 will become 32, 33 degrees Celsius. Yeah, and these are indeed like the wildfires that we were talking about in the ocean, uh, because we have never seen temperatures like this. I remember seeing a recording from an ocean buoy. These are platforms which we
Mhm.
have put in the ocean. These can measure the local temperatures much better than what satellites measure from the top. And they can also measure the subsurface also. Satellites see only the surface and miss the subsurface or, whatever goes below. And we recorded temperatures 32, 33 degrees Celsius, which were the uh, highest temperatures ever to be recorded in the open seas anywhere in the globe. Maybe in the last 80,000 years or more.
Wow.
Uh, yeah. And when you have this kind of temperatures, yeah, corals have a threshold. I'm giving corals because they are the most vulnerable species in the ocean, and though corals occupy only less than 1% of the globe's surface, 25%, a quarter of the marine diversity depends on these corals for their either for their breeding or their for nutrition, many things like that. And these corals have a temperature threshold. So this will be maybe, I don't know exactly, but because different species have different ranges, but it could be between 26, 28 degrees Celsius. So if it goes up to 32, uh, it will bleach the corals. So what happens is that corals, if you have seen in videos or if you have gone for diving, they have beautiful colors. Recently, I went for some diving, and it's a totally different world. It's so beautiful. So if any of the listeners here haven't gone to see the corals, you should do that because it will change your perspectives about life itself. It's so beautiful, and the symbiosis with the fishes and all. So corals have a mucous membrane around them, around their exoskeleton, what we call, uh, and it is this mucous membrane which we call zooxanthellae. It's like an algae, which gives a color and protection for the corals. Also, it helps in the photosynthesis, providing food for the corals to grow and all. And when there is extreme heat like this, these wildfires in the ocean that we say, uh, this get bleached out. That's when these corals become white, like this coral. This is a small
Oh.
coral from from the Indian Ocean itself. Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, even this looks beautiful, right? But it should be ideally maybe pink color or yellow or orange color, yeah, in the sea. And but when you have extreme temperatures, it rips off the algae out the membrane out of this, and it becomes this white. Only the exoskeleton is left, and that's what we call coral bleaching. But then uh, sometimes once the marine heat wave is over, these corals can revive itself. The zooxanthellae comes back and it again grows. But if you have multiple marine heat waves or long-lasting marine heat waves, they get killed. So corals
Mm.
die, and we see that happening across Indian Ocean, even close to India. If you go to Andaman seas, we can see a lot of corals, dead corals over there. One major reason is uh, this increased heat. And some marine heat waves can last for months or sometimes year or so or beyond. We have interesting marine heat wave in the which happen in the Northeast Pacific. A huge area. Ocean is huge. So when we look at a map, it might look smaller, but these are large areas, maybe bigger than many countries. And we call that the Pacific blob because in the charts it looks like a blob over there, but it had an impact on the Atlantic and the U.S. fisheries um, during that time. Both Pacific and Atlantic had, and it affected the fisheries, U.S. fisheries as well. So uh, it might be affecting in the Indian Ocean as well in terms of fisheries, but we do not have that kind of data which are, correlated marine heat waves with the fisheries impact and all. It's much more because fish moves, so sometimes they dive down or migrate north and all. We see these migrations happening. Even I talked to Grinson George, I think recently I saw one video. So CMFRA, Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute, has some fisheries data and all, but we need much more uh, comprehensive data to understand where the fish are going, how much they are affected. But we see a lot of mass fish mortality in the Indian seas happening due to marine heat waves. It's already well studied in the Korean seas, yeah, close to the Indian Ocean. So, and many of them, some of them co-occurs with terrestrial heat waves also. Now we call the heat waves over the land as terrestrial or land heat waves because we have marine heat waves as well. Sometimes they
Right.
co-occur, yeah. And I talked about only the impacts over the ocean. That's just one example, but they have impacts over the atmosphere as well. So, for example, cyclones or hurricanes, we call in the West, they source their energy supply from the warm ocean waters. Yeah, cyclones always form over warm ocean waters, and if there is more warmth, there is more moisture and heat, which keeps on getting supplied from the ocean to the cyclone. So it keeps on intensifying, and we see that happening already in the Arabic Sea region, uh, where we have marine heat waves as well. So some of our early research shows that most of these recent cyclones, intense cyclones, were preceded by marine heat waves, kind of energizing these cyclones. And what happens with cyclones is that, especially recent cyclones, they are not only intensifying to a stronger level, but that intensification is happening in a very short time,
Mm.
in like 6 hours or 12 hours. From category 1, which is less than 100 kilometer per hour speed, to category 5, which may be 200, 250 kilometer per hour speed. And that happens maybe sometimes overnight. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you're going to sleep and you got the Met agency forecast saying, okay, it's a category 1 cyclone. But when you wake up, your roof is already gone because over the night it developed to a category 5 cyclone. Because even models, our forecast models, are unable to capture that rapid intensification in a very short time. Yeah. So these kind of impacts are happening. So which means we need to monitor the oceans closely. But what's happening? Just today, I saw the the
Funding.
the
Funding
proposal
problem.
from NOAA. Yeah. They're closing down many of the ocean laboratories which have been even in the Indian Ocean. This NOAA had deployed several platforms, ocean platforms, which measure the ocean temperatures, currents, and everything, which has been helpful for us to understand the heat waves in the ocean. And these are important. The changes in the Indian Ocean is important for US also. The changes in the Pacific is important for US and India also. So we need global coverage of these observations. So I don't know if all this gets stopped, it will affect our monitoring capacity as a global community for the entire global population, and also our forecasting capacity. It will affect lives. Instead of saving more lives in the in this era where we have all the digital capacity, we'll be saving lesser lives than what we can.
I had a question. Actually, let's walk backwards. I have lots of questions, but this very last point that you made, where what happens in the Atlantic affects the US,
Yeah.
but it also affects India, and then what happens here affects the US as well. Can you explain a little bit about the interconnectedness of the
Hmm.
oceans and how this happens?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the easiest ways to focus on the Pacific, for example, if you take a globe and look at the Pacific will cover the entire side of the globe. It's
Right,
1/3 of the globe actually.
right.
That's a lot of water, and but the ocean also give a free way for the winds to work throughout without any friction. So there are these trade winds acting throughout the Pacific Ocean, and we know it's the entire tropical Pacific is open to the solar insolation also, so it gets heated up. So it drives major forms of both ocean and atmospheric circulation. And there is a phenomenon connected with this oceanic conditions called the El Nino, or the full form is El Nino Southern Oscillation. It comprises of so sometimes Pacific go through these warm periods, especially the Central East Pacific goes through warm phases. It's called the El Nino. El Nino, to be perfect. Nino means El Nino means the boy,
Yeah.
because it used to come during winter season. It still comes during it peaks during the winter season. And La Nina, Spanish again, for the girl child. It's kind of the alter ego or the opposite of El Nino. It's a cold phase, but the impacts are not exactly opposite. Yeah, to some extent it is opposite. So when we have El Nino in the Pacific, it changes the atmospheric circulation. So this happens every roughly. It's not totally periodic. We call it aperiodic. Uh, so roughly every 5 to 7 years, say you have a El Nino. So when there is a El Nino, it changes the atmospheric circulation and the winds in such a way that it affects the winds in over the Indian Ocean and the South Asian region, also over the Atlantic as well. For example, the monsoon winds. Yeah. The El Nino in the Pacific starts developing in June season. So right when the monsoon starts, there is a early signals of El Nino. Yeah. So when it starts evolving, uh, if it is a El Nino, it can weaken the monsoon winds.
Mm.
Yeah, because the climate system or the weather system entirely is connected. The entire atmosphere is connected. So if there is some change over here, it will affect here as well. Similarly for the Atlantic as well. But at the same time, if it is like neutral conditions, the monsoon could be close to normal, or if it is La Nina, cold phase in the Pacific, or uh, you know, La Nina-like conditions in the Pacific, it can strengthen the monsoon. Yeah.
Mm.
So last year, for example, I think we had a weak onset of the monsoon. Uh, that was due to El Nino-like conditions in the Pacific. This year, we had kind of between neutral to La Nina-like conditions in the Pacific. So we had a strong onset or an early onset of the monsoon. So this is one example of how one ocean basin affect the other regions as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Just the other question that I had was actually a slightly more process-oriented one. You said that the temperatures in the ocean, column, it has
Yeah.
been among the hottest in 80,000 years. Like
Yeah.
in the poles where you have the ice caps, you do ice coring to be able to tell
Yeah.
what happened. What do you
Yeah.
do in the sea or the ocean?
So yeah. Oh, what do we?
How do you
No,
know what the temperatures over time have been before we all measured it?
so we have with the same composition. So what we do is climate modeling. We have these models. So everywhere we cannot have proxies for like 80,000 years, just like we had for the Antarctic. Where we drill and because it has layers and layers of snow, and
Correct.
if you go
Correct.
deeper, you got the air bubbles, which has a composition from those years.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
but we use this composition, these conditions in our climate models to recreate and simulate the conditions of the past. Yeah,
Okay.
so we can see how the oceans. This is all part of paleoceanography or paleoclimate research. So we can see how the ocean evolved during the last several thousand years. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Prem?
Yeah. Roxy, you've been talking about, so for instance, when you talked about the corals and what could happen, for instance, the 2015 Gulf of Mannar incident, for instance, or disaster, you talked about how 1%, which is the extent of coral reefs under the ocean, provide food and sustenance to 25% of marine life.
Marine
Uh,
biodiversity. Yeah.
Right, to marine biodiversity. Also related to that and related to the heating up of the bottom layers of the ocean. One of the points that you've made in your research is that or leading from that, I want to ask, when that kind of heating happens, fairly obviously, fish will flee to the deeper or the cooler waters, right? How
Mhm.
does this hurt ocean life and also specifically coastal fishing communities? Are we
Mhm.
seeing conflicts over disappearing fish stocks? Again, a classic example which you have referred to is the 60% drop in sardines in off the Kerala coast.
Mhm.
So the question basically is, how is this going to impact both the diversity of ocean life, fish stock, and also the coastal communities?
Yeah, yeah. I think coastal communities face a lot actually,
Mm-hmm.
because they are facing changes in their income due to drop in or changes in fisheries. At the same time, they have huge impacts from cyclones, extreme rains, flooding, sea level rise, all those things, and overlapping effects also. I think we need to talk about compound events or these overlapping events as well, because for coastal communities, these come as a huge impact. Now, when it comes to fisheries and all, I'm not a fisheries expert, but uh, we should, yeah, definitely talk about a few points because I should not forget industrial fisheries while talking about climate change. Yeah, so from climate change point of view, we definitely see early signals of fish migration. So Kerala coast maybe sardines dropping, but we see sardines increasing on Maharashtra coast or Gujarat
Mm-hmm.
coast. Yeah, just that we do not have sufficient data to have a put out a proper report and show evidence that to climate change. It is possible if different departments, fisheries department, climate department, and all work together, collect this data, and run some simulations and experiments. It is possible to check and conclude that this migration is for real. Now, from diving down from surface to deep and all, that again, that is much more intricate thing. We are we are assuming that this is happening because elsewhere this has happened in other regions as well. Yeah. We did see, so we had a earlier study in around 2015, it was published on reduction in marine phytoplankton in the Indian Ocean. So this
Mm-hmm.
is happening because of that ocean warming. So what happens is most of the warming happens in the surface. Yeah, then it penetrates down deep. This means the waters get stratified. So if the top water is much more warmer than usual, it is less dense, so it cannot mix well.
Mm,
It doesn't sink, or the bottom water will not come up as well because this is less dense, so it will have a tendency to float.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and but this mixing is very important for phytoplankton production. Phytoplankton is those are the microscopic plants in the ocean, the base of our food pyramid. All the fishes and all, in the top of the food chain depend on the basic phytoplankton. So we have phytoplankton, zooplankton, which depend on phytoplankton, and then the fishes and all. Now, what happens is that the nutrients for the phytoplankton is found in the subsurface, not in the surface. And the
Mm-hmm.
surface doesn't get mixed with the subsurface. The nutrients do not come up. And why do they need to come up? Because most of the light for the photosynthesis for the phytoplankton is in the upper surface, near surface. So it's a mix of these things. So when that mixing doesn't happen, there are not sufficient nutrients for phytoplankton production, and we see a reduction in phytoplankton production in the Indian Ocean. This is happening over the last. We have this is from satellite data that we have derived. This is happening over the last 15, 20 years, and this is projected to decline further. Yeah. Now, along with this, we did a preliminary analysis on tuna population in the Indian Ocean because there is an Indian Ocean Tuna Commission, and they provide the data of tuna catches on a yearly basis from the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission. They take from all different kind of industrial fisheries and put it out there. So we analyze this also. So we see that if you look at the tuna population starting from 1950s, it drops suddenly and then it's flat or going down further. And this is not because of climate change. This is because of huge industrial fisheries that happened in the last several decades. Yeah, wiped out the entire tuna population that we had in the Indian Ocean, especially the Western Indian Ocean, where the monsoon and all acts. There is a lot of. That's one of the most productive regions, and some of our most viable tuna, like the big eye tuna, comes from that region. So all these have been wiped out by the, we talk about historical uh, emitters, right? Same way, we have historical, uh, uh, fishing countries which have wiped out the fishes from our seas.
Yes.
Okay, we need to be aware of that. And they have a bigger impact on the fisheries than climate change. Climate
Correct.
change is definitely an added stressor. And that is still happening because we have less regulations. We do not have that kind of data to look at all the impacts in the ocean. So we are doing left, right, up, down, from surface, from fisheries to undersea mining, deep sea mining. We are exploiting it to the maximum because it is not so obvious to the public, the damage in the ecosystem in the ocean. Yeah. I don't know where I
Thank you so
started
much
and
for saying
where
this.
I
No,
reached.
no, no. I think you bring
Yeah.
up such a good point because it's so easy, and we find a lot of people, and Prem and I are very conscious of this also. We find a
Mm.
lot of people who pin everything on climate change.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything
yeah,
bad that they bring on is climate change. And all the people who are the stressors, the historical stressors,
yeah.
go off scot-free. And we
Huh. Yeah, yeah. This is very important because it always happens that okay, we have a topic, it's climate change, so we end up talking only that. It maybe just that we miss those points also. But I think we need to have comprehensive look, otherwise,
Yes.
and we also see climate change used as something to blame instead of taking action. That happens on our land also, not just ocean. So rivers are squeezed, land surface is changed. There is no vegetation for to hold that extreme rains and water, and we have sudden floods. And we blame it on climate change. But many times
Yeah.
it is due to the local how we deformed our environment around.
You
That's
just
the
sang Arti's song, uh,
you just sang my
set
song.
to yeah,
Really?
set to music. Yeah, she
Oh yeah,
keeps.
my book. In fact, when I give a talk
Huh,
based on Marginlands, which is the book,
huh.
which is what this podcast is based on, also, I always end with, "Do you guys realize I haven't mentioned two words yet? Which two words haven't I mentioned?" And somebody in the audience always helps me out by saying climate change, and I'm like, yes, because the whole book is about what we're doing to the landscape even
Yeah,
before we start talking about climate.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, you're singing my.
yeah.
Thanks for that.
Right.
And you also mentioned something that I think, I mean, I just made a quick note of it, and this is something that we need to keep bringing up frequently, just to make sure that people get it. When we talked about heating of the ocean and therefore the vanishing of certain fish species, you talked about compounding effects, which again is
Yeah,
something that is not normally
yeah,
taken note of, that
yeah.
something is not the only cause. All of these things work together to create.
Together.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Oh, this is a very important point, and the thing is that I will give you an example of compound events first, and then go to other things. So, one example over land is when droughts happen along with heat waves.
Hmm.
And sometimes, for example, if you take 2023, I think, heat wave, or 2024 heat wave, I don't remember. So before the monsoon, there was a long rainfall deficit, and the heat waves were also longer. I think it was in 2023. Yeah, and human memory is short. Okay, so if I don't remember like this, you know, even last month heat wave, people will forget. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, uh, so this coincided with a lot of wildfires across the country, especially Central India, North India, and all. So wildfires and air pollution, not just from the fires, but also the stubble burning and
Hmm.
pollution from all industries, cars, everything all together mixed in one pot. So this puts a tremendous pressure and impact on human health, ecosystem health. Um, I remember that even agriculture suffered, uh, and India stopped its wheat exports for
Yes.
a short time during this. India is one of the largest exporter, and for us to stop that means there's a huge impact on agriculture. And farmers were saying that their wheat produce, the grains were 20% less in size than usual because of the drought and the heat and all. Yeah. So that is kind of a compound event. Uh, Another compound event from coastal perspective is we know that uh, uh, cyclones are intensifying, right? So these cyclones push in a lot of strong waves towards the coastal region. We call it storm surge.
Search.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these waves are sometimes of the height of 4 meter or 6 meter height. So it's a lot of water coming from the sea towards the land. And this is salt water. Yeah. So it's not just water like or floods like when we have the rains. So cyclone is pushing that water. Along with that flooding from cyclones, the same cyclone brings in water from rains also. This can be 100, 150 millimeter or like rain in the coastal areas. So water from the storm surge, water from the cyclonic rains. And now we know that every year, year by year, decade by decade, the sea level is also rising. So that means that this flood level is rising year by year, decade by decade, especially along the coastal region. So this is like a compound event which acts at multiple time scale because the sea level is a slowly growing thing.
Mm.
But if you had the same cyclone 10 or 20 years ago, the amount of flood will be lesser. Yeah. Uh, or if you had that cyclone 10 years back cyclone now, the amount of flooding will be much more larger because the sea level rise is much more. Not only that, the same cyclone is bringing in more moisture than earlier because global warming has released more moisture into the atmosphere. Ocean is warming, there's more moisture available. So when that cyclone brings in, the cyclone rains in itself have increased. So this is like a coastal or compound coastal flooding. Yeah. Now the thing is, many scientists or departments monitor, study all these aspects individually, separately. Yeah.
Mm.
Uh, like the rains will be monitored by the Met Department, the waterways and the everything will be the hydraulic department or the water commission, mostly with the local administration. There's a groundwater department. Then the sea data will be with another another institution or department. Yeah. So even if a person like me want to work on all these elements, getting these data, even if it is within the ministry or other ministries, it's very difficult to get this data and work together. And also you need experts from all these fields to work together. We need that kind of framework. So there's already a lot of research coming from other areas on compound effects, but we need that here for India, South Asia, because we already see this happening. The IPCC report I saw, it says that compound events are emerging and it's going to happen in the near future. But for India, it's already happening. Yeah, we haven't taken stock of it. We haven't done the research. We don't have a focused uh, program on that to decipher and before thinking of adaptation, we need to quantify and understand it. Yeah.
Another of my songs you sang
Yeah.
just now.
In fact, I was just thinking,
Okay.
we are into our ninth, this is the ninth episode, Roxy, and I can think of three different guests who have come on our show who have all made this point that
Huh.
we operate in silos, that we don't talk to one
Yeah.
another, we don't share data,
Yeah. Yeah.
and in various times at various places. Before moving on from heat waves to something that I know Aarti has been, itching to talk about, uh, you make the point, Roxy, that deoxygenation could, in your words,
Huh.
unravel the food web, is what you
Mm.
said. Uh,
Mm.
that point sort of jumped out at me when I was going through some of those papers of yours. Would it be possible to explain how this works? And specifically, are we saying then that if this happens, if deoxygenation happens, uh, could parts of the Indian Ocean, for instance, become dead zones?
Mm.
What are we talking about here?
Actually, Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal already have these hypoxic zones, or what we call DMC. The what was it? What was that?
deoxygenation
Huh,
zones.
I forgot the proper name. Yeah. Anyway, we have this hypoxic zones. We call it DMZ. Uh, I'm not getting it. Suddenly it's escaping.
Deoxygenated marine zones.
Ah,
Yeah.
I just made it up. I don't know.
No, M is for something else. I read. Okay, let me
That's
Google.
okay. That's okay. There's always Google to the rescue.
Yeah, DMC could also have referred to the South Korea North Korea divide at some point, but we'll stay with the oceans for now.
Okay. These are no. This is OMC, oxygen minimum source. That's why I didn't get. That's why I didn't get.
Okay.
OMC,
Oh,
oxygen minimum zones.
Okay.
But there are early indications that these oxygen minimum zones, there is some voice coming up. I don't know.
yeah. I think we'll both go on mute. And
Okay. That's okay otherwise. I mean, if it doesn't get into my recording. Yeah. So there's this oxygen minimum zones, which are zones where the oxygen level in the water, dissolved oxygen in the water is very less, and this is important for the marine ecosystem and all this dissolved oxygen. Now, what happens is that due to multiple processes, uh, one is through if there is a lot of detritus from the phytoplankton dying and going down, the oxygen gets used up in the ocean. The other way is if the water itself warms up more, the capacity of water to hold more of this dissolved oxygen as well as the carbon dioxide decreases. Yeah. So it may be due to this reason that the oxygen levels in the Indian Ocean is declining. We have only scattered observations of oxygen compared to the temperature or salinity or the ocean currents, even phytoplankton. We do not have as much measurements in the for the oxygen. So we do not have uh, long-term data, but we have early indications that oxygen is declining, and this is going to amplify further in the future. And this will have some effect on the marine ecosystem. Maybe much more effect will be from the change, from the acidification, from the pH changes of water, because of all the carbon dioxide that ocean has absorbed, the pH levels are changing. It's getting acidified. So instead of what we had earlier, like 8.1, we might be going down to 8, and then later projected to 7.7 and all. Even zero point 0.1 of pH change, for example, in human blood, is lethal. We can die of multiple organ failure. So, so any digit, whether it is temperatures or pH and all, has huge impacts on ecosystems. We do see that these calcifying organisms, uh, they are not able to build their shells as usual, as big as earlier. So they grow smaller and smaller. So these kind of impacts are there on marine ecosystems. We need more data actually for all this, closely monitor. Our for India, that's uh, the investment in science and technologies, 0.6% of GDP, which is quite sad. That's the saddest thing, if I think on any day. Uh, we have to scale it up. Then only we can do wonders in terms of, you know, bringing out that science and research for the benefit of humanity, for our own population. Otherwise, we'll be, talking a lot without, making that impact.
Just since you brought up funding, I'm just going to go to that question. That was going to be my last question, actually, but I'll just do that now. Since, say, NOA, the funding is getting cut drastically, India is just 0.6% of GDP. Is there any country that you see stepping up to fill these gaps, countries, EU, whatever it may be, stepping in to fill these gaps, or do you just see it as bad news right now?
Well, I am watching the Indian Ocean. I can see, for example, China is working out huge.
Mm.
They're investing huge in science and technology and also in ocean observations. Very thorough ocean observation. And it's not very recent. During the last 2 decades, they have built a huge ocean observation network in the Indian Ocean. Korea has a is investing a lot. India also is doing a lot in terms of ocean observation. Just that we are limiting ourselves mostly to the North Indian Ocean, but we need to focus on the entire Indian Ocean, both for scientific purpose and also for political purpose. Also, I would say that will be a stronghold for India if India does that. I think India can take a claim and put more resources out there. We have the capacity to do that. So China definitely is doing huge, but the problem with China is that many of this data may not be available in the public domain,
Can
just
ask.
like what US has. Even Korea, some of their measurements are part of the larger public domain. Yeah, we
Japan?
had. Yeah, what's that? Japan. Not that much into last 1 or 2 decades their inputs have declined.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about the sharing of data, because if China is going to be the main player, the sharing of data
Mm,
could be an issue
yeah.
with India, I
And
guess.
yeah, Australia and South Africa does a
Uh,
lot, but they are confined to their mostly coastal areas.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
But we need anything that affects anywhere the Indian Ocean or any ocean has strong impact. One perfect example is uh, Cyclone Freddy. We started from close to Australia, from Eastern Indian Ocean, and reached Madagascar and killed people there. And
Whoa.
over the time, it intensified like 7 times. It intensified, to strong winds, and survived for several days. Yeah,
Wow.
that's because of ocean warming. Yeah.
Got it. Let's move slightly towards land now. I think Prem
Mm.
was referring to that. I've been waiting to ask you this question. You did talk about how we are changing landscapes and how that might be affecting the climate as well, and rains and patterns and monsoon and so on. I wanted to ask you about this thing that you have mentioned, where the river linking projects can reduce September
Yeah,
rains, monsoon rains by 12%.
yeah, yeah.
Can you just explain to our listeners what the connection between rivers
Uh,
and the monsoon will be? This is fascinating for me.
right, right. So the idea is that uh, if you have water over the land, yeah, India is a huge subcontinent, and if you have water over India, uh, we have trees also. So the water evaporates. Some of it evapotranspirates to the trees and all, and then this moisture goes back into the air, and slowly it forms clouds again, and and forces rain again. That's called recycled rainfall,
Mm.
which means that any kind of water, whether it's even from the monsoon. So suppose we are the southwest monsoon starting from June, and we got June, July, uh, uh, a lot of rains. After that, even if the winds do not bring a lot of rains, the same water that came into the land gets evapotranspirated through the trees and all, and slowly gets back into the atmosphere, forms clouds and rains again. So a lot of our research shows that this kind of rain contributes to maybe at least some regions 10% or sometimes 20% of the rains in August, September, and all. Yeah. One example, my colleague Subimal Ghosh from IIT Bombay, they have done a lot of research on recycled rainfall. What they say is that the Western Ghats on the west coast of
Mm.
India, southwest coast of India, this Western Ghats provides 10 to 25% of rainfall to Tamil Nadu through this
Mm.
recycled rainfall. Yeah,
Mm.
especially during the when Tamil Nadu is going through dry years due to their monsoon failure and all. Whatever rain they are getting is the recycled rainfall, coming from these forests of Western Ghats. Yeah.
Wow.
So you see the power of recycled rainfall. It may not rain in the exact region. It may rain somewhere else, and that is happening over Tamil Nadu. So uh, it means land surface processes, trees, forests, vegetation, rivers, everything has a huge role in the atmospheric system. Now, what is the idea of river interlinking? River interlinking is about taking water from a surplus river to deficit river basin or deficit area, providing water there. So when we take that kind of water from one area to another, you are providing more water over those surfaces, and also you are reducing water from this place. Uh, uh, if I give a total number of the amount of water runoff during the monsoon season, it's about 18,000 billion cubic meters. Yeah, even I cannot imagine. I know I see you rolling your eyes. Even I cannot imagine, but I think it's huge. Now, if I say 18,000, if you do all this river interlinking that the government has planned, it comes to 18 billion cubic meter of water being diverted. That's 10% of whatever rivers we have. That's huge amount of water. Yeah. So huge amount of water is being diverted from one place to another than the natural systems that we have. So that will change the the interactions of from the land surface, from the trees, evapotranspiration, and the amount of recycled rainfall and everything. So that is the essence of this study, which shows that okay, if you do all these kind of river interlinking, you're going to see some reduction in rainfall in some regions, some increase in rainfall in some regions, especially during the uh, last part of the season when the recycled rainfall is more important. Yeah.
And it's probably not linear, right?
Oh, it's totally non-linear. So the idea was that when we are taking up these kind of big projects, uh, we need to study the not only the immediate environmental impacts over that area, but also the general climatic impacts also.
Mm.
For example, impact on the monsoon and all. And this has not been done by the government. Yeah, any project. I think each project also is like works on silos without working together with the other departments. So yeah.
Yeah, that's another discussion where the go ahead for many of these projects is given even before the
NGT.
assessment.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes, indeed. Well, I've got so many questions. I think we could go on for hours, but I'm sure that Roxy has got lots of things to do. So I'm going to be mindful of that. Prem, I'm going to toss it back to you if you have any closing comments or questions.
No, I mean, just like you, I just realized that even the scribbles that I've made while Roxy was talking are all questions that need to be asked. So the best I can do is, Roxy, we'd dearly love to have you back on for season two of this.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely.
yeah, but again, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been sort of I've also underlined some of these eye-opening
Uh-huh.
things that
Yeah.
you said. So again, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll have you back soon to take this further.
Yeah, I love the discussion because you both were involved and it was like in a casual way. I had a headache before I started, but I no longer
Oh,
have the
so
headache.
sorry.
So I'm relieved. I'm relieved. I was like, should I tell Ardi? Today I cannot do. Yeah, but by the time we started, it was, maybe I got distracted and
So
it's,
Roxy,
it's, it's good.
we'll make you an offer, Roxy. Anytime you have a headache,
Okay.
just ping us. We'll come online, we'll record you, and
That-
Yeah.
win-win for
That's a
both.
good idea.
Yeah, and I think one big topic that we didn't get to, which I really wanted to get to, but we should have you back because it is a bigger one, and
Mm.
maybe we can have you in conjunction with somebody else, is
Mm.
disease.
Yeah.
This is, yeah, yeah.
I
We
really want to
just,
talk to that.
yeah, yeah. If I talk, it will be, I mean, it will go on.
Yes, exactly.
But
I think disease, public health,
uh,
and changes that we are seeing both in climate change and in land use change. I think
yeah,
that's a whole discussion in itself. So we'll do that again, and we'll definitely have you
yeah.
on for that.
Yeah,
So
anyway,
thank
one
you.
line we are focusing huge on climate impact on health because there is a huge impact. It's tightly connected with the seasonal cycle, and there's ways for forecasting these diseases so that we can take precautions. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's such an important thing, and public health. That's the other thing. We ended the previous episode with what I saw a graphic which Gautam Menon. Do you know him?
Yeah, I follow
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
he posted, it's called carbon tunnel vision, where you're
Uh-huh.
only looking at emissions, but all the other
Yes.
Yeah.
things that are
Yeah.
compound effects are not part of your thing. And disease,
Yeah.
I feel public health is such a big thing, it's
Yeah.
so important. And we're seeing it all around us. Bangalore, my God, dengue and chikungunya and all of that stuff is just rampant. And I think you posted a few days ago, you posted
Yeah.
3
Yeah.
apps, right? In which Karnataka, and I think it was for chikungunya, was like dark
Dengue.
red.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dengue, chikungunya. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, one of
yeah,
those
yeah,
things. Yeah, so I really want
yeah.
to dig into that, and so we'll talk about that. We'll have you again when we
Sure,
do
sure,
this.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you so much,
Perfect.
Roxy. It's
Yeah,
just been an
thanks.
absolute pleasure, and thank you for doing what you do. It is so important, and I do hope
Yeah.
that we never run out of funds to do it.
I'm happy to hear that, and I hope so. And I hope there are more funds and more people. A lot of funds goes to just government institutions. Actually, institutions like ours have a lot of funds, which is good. But I feel universities and other institutions also should have a lot of funds, which has gone down over a lot of
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Anyway, have a good day.
Thank you.
There's a
You
lot to
too.
talk.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye
Yes.
bye.
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 Take
Bye.
care.
Bye, Prem. Bye.
Wow. So that was Dr. Cole.
Yeah,
Roxy.
and I mean, considering the headlines that you showed at the start of this episode, I couldn't think of anyone. We couldn't think of anyone better to actually walk us through what was happening, particularly marine heat waves. You don't really think of it, right? I mean, that's where you go to cool off, and you don't realize the ocean is warming. One of the I mean, the number of startling things that Dr. Cole told us, one of obviously was marine heat waves. And I was also thinking of carbon capture and what he said
Mm,
about, all the carbon capture uh, initiatives in the world together managed to capture 1 minute's worth of
that's
emissions.
ridiculous, no?
Yeah,
Or was it 1 second? What did he say?
one minute is what he said.
Oof, that's
I mean,
madness.
that's crazy, right? It's
Yeah, that was crazy. Also, the fact that he said that the best capture happens at source. So
yeah,
where you are
emitting.
emitting is where you need to curtail it,
Yeah,
and not after it's all released into the air. Superb points, superb points. I mean,
yeah.
there were so many good points that he made.
He also made another point about this thing about, remember, and that's something that we probably want to talk about a little bit. He talked about how it's not like today's emission is today's problem. That these emissions hang there for decades, centuries, etc. So, shall we?
Yeah,
Yes.
so yeah, the historical emissions, right? Is that
Mm-hmm.
what you're talking about? Yeah. So let's really quickly look at something which is basically how historical emitters have polluted the air of the earth and what's brought us to this point. This thing that I'm going to show is something that was made in 2021 for COP21, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it there for the first time, and it just stuck in my head. And I just thought, a lot of people don't realize this because a lot of Western media pegs it on, oh, China and India are the worst emitters. But given that carbon dioxide, I should say carbon dioxide, not carbon dioxide stays in the atmosphere for hundreds of years, many more actually. It's important that we realize that, you know, how these countries have fared. And here it goes. You start from, I think, 1852, and you just look, for those who are just listening to us, there is, we will post this in the show notes so you can take a look at it. Carbon Brief has come up with this historical polluters time lapse, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
where the United States is just running away for the most part, and it right up to the end. In fact, if I were to be give you a spoiler, it stays as the highest emitter. And then here, in about 1950, 51, we're seeing Russia being number two, far, far behind, though, far behind
Yeah.
United States. And then Brazil is number three. And then China starts picking up. And then China quickly usurps number two and then becomes, it overtakes Russia at around 2008. And it's now the second highest emitter. But still, even by 2021, um, the US is by far the biggest emitter. I'm just going
Yeah, China is about half of the US, even after all of this, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting, if you remember, Arti, for the second time in 2 terms, Donald Trump has pulled the US out of every single commitment that the country has made towards climate. So there was, if you remember, that executive order, and ironically, it says putting America first. I wonder if he understands that carbon emission hangs over the US just as much as it hangs over the rest of the world. Um, but putting America first in international environmental agreements, which was an executive order that instructed the US ambassador to notify the Secretary General of withdrawal from the Paris Agreement and from all other climate related commitments. This comes into effect January 27, 2026, because there is a lag between issuing an order and it actually becoming effective. But what is even more interesting is that the US at the same time pulled out or announced its pullout from the COP established loss and damage fund.
Mm-hmm.
So the US had pledged 17.5 million, which is, when you think about it, it's a pittance.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, 17.5 million was pledged, and even that has been retracted.
Yeah.
The US just spent 50 million, if I remember correctly, on Donald Trump's birthday military parade. 17.5 million for climate change, however, is. They also closed the Office of Climate Diplomacy. You remember Roxy was talking about this, right?
Yeah.
Because
In
of,
fact, the NOAA funding has been
yeah,
slashed, and that is basically the ocean, the guys who do a lot of research on
yeah,
the ocean, and that going away, Roxy mentioned, is going to take a huge Indian Ocean research is going to take a huge hit by those
yes.
cuts, and it's going to harm science in general across the world, not
Hmm.
just any one country, because as you mentioned, and as Roxy mentioned as well, oceans are connected. Everything is
Yeah,
connected, interconnected. And carbon emissions and carbon dioxide and every other gas is also coming. It doesn't stop at man-made boundaries. So you aren't going to get, India's carbon emissions staying over India and so on. That doesn't happen. So
yeah,
it's crazy. And again, I I mean, I go back. This thing was done in 2021, and I was at COP21, and I swear it was so stunning. My first COP, I swore never to go back. And you realize how business driven this whole thing is. It's
mm,
got really nothing to do with solving the problem. A Maasai once at that COP came up to me and he said, if this had anything to do with solving for climate change,
hmm,
it would not take 21 years. It would not have taken 21 years. This was at that time 21 years. And
yeah.
we are now 10 years more.
We're,
It's
we're
31.
now 30, right?
Yeah,
30,
yeah.
31, yeah.
So this is COP30 coming up. And really it is that. And if you look at all the players there, you see there's such big climate change is such big business. Um, I don't see that being, it's a lot of vested interests, and it's really hard to when you hear a person like Roxy speak and you
Mm.
see all the good work that they do, if that does not inform policy, if that does not inform global policy and help, um, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I've never been to a COP, but I've been assiduously following the reportage every single time there is. And what strikes me is, among the better reporting that comes in, when you follow some of the better reporting that comes in, it's it's two COPs, right? There is one that is for public consumption, all the high sounding statements and resolutions and all of that, and then there is backstage. They're haggling over, in context of what we're talking about and in context of the kind of nations that are represented at COP. They're talking about, I mean, they're haggling over pennies, literally.
They're haggling over pennies, and the US especially, and COP21 was Obama's administration. It was not even Trump.
Yeah,
Okay. Obama's administration, John Kerry was there, and I think they were very clear about the fact that what will and will not pass with Congress. So they were the ones that diluted, or they were hugely contributed to diluting some of the things that a lot of the global South was asking for.
yeah.
Uh, and that is kind of the tone that set the tone for whatever has come since. And the haggling is happening while real lives are being lost, livelihoods are. I don't think that sense, that empathy for what's really happening in the world, um, reaches those guys. And I don't know where we as storytellers have failed, because maybe making a lot of noise about climate change has now begun to deaden people.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. It's getting to be a bit of white noise, really, right? I mean,
Yeah.
people just, yeah, they just sort of float along in that. And I don't know what it's going to take, though. Reporting doesn't seem to make any difference. And reporting not by just journalists sounding off, but by experts who are actually working in the field and who are contributing to the science that science around this subject. That doesn't work. Your house is getting flooded doesn't work. Your temperature is rising to points where you can't step out without suffering sunstroke. That doesn't seem to get the message across. What is going to is, I don't know, honestly.
Yeah, that's right. And also the fact that there doesn't seem to be um, there doesn't seem to be that understanding that what is happening thanks to this w- is um, is going to affect business. It's going
Yeah,
to affect business as well. But again, as I think we mentioned this some time ago, it's really short term, myopic views that people seem to have, and it's kind of something that we keep talking about. So let's let
true.
it go. But um, it's all connected. This is not going to be sustainable, especially. I mean, imagine the collapse of world fisheries. Imagine the collapse of even say, I mean, if there's this kind of heat, imagine the
Mhm.
productivity loss, all of that, right? Um,
Yeah.
anyway, so that's that. um, I just wanted to bring up this thing, which again
Oh,
is something, it's a project that Roxy and his wife, Sarah, uh, do. She does this amazing embroidery. And for those who are not seeing this, I would strongly, even if it was just for this last little bit, please go to the YouTube and see this. It's Roxy talked about the bleaching of corals. And this is an embroidery done by Sarah and Roxy about that. And it's so beautifully done, so beautifully done. Even the writing, even the labeling, everything is embroidered. And it talks about marine heat waves, and it shows very clearly what corals would look like in a healthy ocean and what it
mhm.
looks like in a warming ocean. And it's called Gone with the Heat. And it's by Sarah and Juby Elias Cole. I think the whole family does this. The Coles
Yeah.
do this. And it's just beautiful. I think it's just absolutely fantastic. And I would strongly recommend everyone to go see it. It's art at its highest when it comes to scientific art.
Yeah, absolutely. Stunningly good, right? I
Yeah.
mean, Roxy, when we talk to me, come across as this scientist, always engaged in the mechanics of how these things are working and all that. And but there are actually so many sides to him, including this one.
Yeah, yeah. And he's an excellent, he works with people, citizen science and stuff like that. I've
Hmm.
seen him, talk at so many different forums. And it's just, I think he's a treasure. And I'm so glad he got that award, the highest national science award that in the nation, because we need more Roxys. We need people like this, and we need people engaged and able to make these connections between
Yeah.
various varied data points that data was another thing that he said is funding for data, funding for storytelling, for all kinds of things. Though there's so much money in the world, we
Yeah.
probably we have the most money in the world right now, and then all these important things, or at least things that we see as important, seem to fall by the wayside.
Absolutely. 500 million for a wedding celebration,
Oh God, never
right?
mind.
Yeah.
I mean, we have our own one of those
Problems. Yeah,
wells.
absolutely. But that said, I mean, you did say we need more Roxys. And while I was listening to Roxy, one of the things I thought of is that we need more of Roxy. Because if you remember that list that we made of topics that we wanted to bring up, we haven't even gotten
Yep.
to about a fourth.
Yep. Yeah. 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 And I mean, some of the most important things which um, which affects every one of us, disease, like we
Yeah,
said towards the end, we really need to get him back. And there are a couple of other people also who are doing excellent work in this space. Maybe we can have them on together, or have them one after another in a future episode and talk about
right.
those implications of this kind of a warming world, warming ocean.
Hmm.
Hmm?
And so, with that, as usual, to our listeners, thank you for listening. If it's your first time here, do hit subscribe. Do hit the bell icon next to the subscribe icon. You'll find all of that right below this. The show notes will give you extensive resources to follow up on what Dr. Roxy Koll has been telling us, and also some of the things that Aarti and I spoke about before and after our guest. Again, thank you all for your attention, and we will see you in a fortnight's time with our next episode. Aarti?
Yes. Thank you so much. Please do write in marginlands@gmail.com. Tell us what you think. Tell us what we can do better, what you liked. Write to us with guests you would like to hear from on this show. And take care, stay safe, stay cool, stay dry, and keep reading, keep listening, and good luck.